what should we be doing right now? We're seeing all the darkest things come into our awareness, our human collective, the light being shined on these darkest parts of our subconscious. What should we do about it? That really comes from gnosis, from knowing, from getting deep within your own dream and listening to your guidance about what it is that you are called to do. And today we're going to have a beautiful conversation with Angela Soul Rose about awakening that connection with the feminine Christ and dreaming with our great mother and coming back into your knowing and your remembrance so that you do know exactly what's next for you. Join us to find out more.
Soul Nectar Show, the Soul Nectar Show. You're invited, delighted to discover who you are. Anything is possible if you believe. So join us on this beautiful journey. Soul Nectar Show, Soul Nectar Show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar Show, that show where we talk about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our connection to that which is greater than us, to the big mystery beyond the veil, to those synchronistic moments that lead us inexorably to a deeper understanding of ourselves and who we are and what we're doing on this blue dot, swimming around in an ocean of stars. And I am your host, Kerri Hummingbird. I love doing these broadcasts week after week for the last 10 plus years. It's been such a beautiful journey, all the conversations that we've had together on this show. And definitely many of the conversations I see in retrospect were prophetic and about the time that we're in right now, the time that's unfolding right in front of us. It's to see it manifest is quite shocking. You know, we knew that we were flooding everything with light. We were flooding this whole human consciousness with tons of light, and all of us doing our light work. And then to see it manifest in us being able to see what's hanging out in the deepest, darkest corners of the human psychology. What's been hanging out there unseen or ignored or only seen by a relatively few. And we're getting to see that now. And yes, this is the rise of the divine feminine. This is the rise of the return of the mother, really. The return of the mother to planet Earth, the return of the mother energy in full force. And we are only at the beginning of seeing what that's going to look like. But boy, she's getting herself prepared to stand. And it's quite something. So as we see all of these revealings in the collective, you might be feeling a number of ways. You know, I imagine I have been feeling angry at times and outraged at the injustice, and then just hurt and pained at the truth that all of us in women's bodies have known the whole time we've been on the planet, is that this world was made for men. You know, for the last thousands of years, it wasn't made for us. And if we succeeded, that was just because of our own gumption, our own hard work, our own determination. And so here we are, you know, we are stepping forward into a whole new energetic that I believe is going to flip the tables, all the tables. And we're going to be having a pretty great leveling of the playing field. And so as we open to receive that, you know, also we must let go of what has been and any attachments to what has been. And so we get to really be the architect of a whole new world together as a collective we. So it's very exciting to me. And so today we're going to have a conversation that's a long time in the making. I actually been talking with our guest, Angela Soul Rose, for, I don't know, months, and read her lovely chapter in this book, The Magdalene Oracle, and really, really beautiful book featuring a number of different authors sharing their perspectives and their journeys with the Magdalene. And so we're going to hear from Angela today. She is a visionary channel, a psychic reader, a teacher, divine feminine priestess, and healer with over 15 years of experience. And she's also a contributor to this book that we just talked about, and starting to get out there and share her voice. So I'm excited to give you another opportunity, Angela, to share your voice. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Kerri. I'm really happy to be here. And like you said, it's been kind of a long time in the making. So it's just wonderful to be here with you today. And I so appreciate you opening up this space for me to share, and the level of sacred wisdom that you've been holding and carrying.
It's just in total transparency for the audience too. I mean, physical challenges have been quite something over the last few months, and I am now with another physical challenge, a little cold. So if my voice doesn't sound quite the way it normally does, that's why. But we're going to make this work. So Angela, I know that you actually sent me a beautiful dream message. You actually work with dreams, and you had a dream that included me, and it was so powerful. You asked permission, and you could share it with me, and you did, and it was really beautiful. And so I know that that you've been on your own journey of awakening this divine feminine within you, and I know that that's an intrepid journey in this world that we've been living in. That's really something that helps you go against the grain of what you've been conditioned to do and be. And so where do you want to start telling us your story? Like, tell us your story and how you decided to pursue this energy and to pursue this path. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I mean, the journey really started when I was born, I'd say, or even before that, but I always had this kind of sensitivity, I suppose, to the spirit world. And I had quite powerful and prophetic dreams since I was a kid, since I was pretty young. And um, I also, probably around 13 or so, which is pretty significant to me now, knowing my path with the goddess, and 13, how that connects to her wisdom. But around 13, I had a significant series of deaths of close family members. It was like, or maybe like 10 different people. And that sort of cracked things open. It was like one of the first little initiations with sort of my own sensitivities developing and the service to spirit, to the divine. I mean, now, so I practice mediumship as well. And that, I suppose, was the foundation of that. But it was also just the foundation of my opening with spirit. Just like, whoa, hey, there's kind of so much more. And that's what's been stirring in me since I was really young. Going from there, I mean, I've studied with so many different teachers and read quite a lot, but I'd say that the most that I've learned was from my direct relationship with spirit. And it was probably later in my teens when I just started to realize that my purpose was very centered around the divine feminine. I made my way into, I had children fairly early. My first daughter, I had her when I was 22, which is another significant number to the goddess. And that really opened my relationship with the divine feminine, my understanding of my purpose with her, and what is happening on the planet right now with the Great Mother, with the Divine Mother. And then, yeah, I spent some time as a doula, even did some home birth with midwifery, had 2 other children since then, and probably started reading after, like, doing psychic readings for the public after my son, who was my second child, and just kind of snowballed, really. And the point of it all for me is really just being in service to everyone, remembering their light here during this beautiful journey that is held by, as I see it, the goddess. As she's the mother, the mater, the matter, the earth, that we get to step into this illusion, of like who we truly are, the truth and the love and the light that is our being. We get to step away from that and be held here in the matter. And I think we're really learning about, how to do that in a more wholesome way now. There's just like this grand shaking up that's happening in remembrance. And to me, it's all led by the goddess. Yeah, so now I teach mostly about psychic development, helping people to reconnect to their own intuition and to gnosis, that knowing of our truth of love that I believe comes from within us, that we reconnect with through there. And I teach about dream medicine, as I call it. Um, and then, yeah, I lead ceremony as well. And I really see most of my work is kind of like supporting people and bridging back to the light, bridging back to spirit, and then making that tangible, embodied, which to me, again, is like the path of the goddess. We must embody this wisdom, we must live it rather than just know it. And that's part of the change that I think is happening in the world. It's like remembering isn't happening in the mind, it's experiential. It's we're bringing our light back, we're allowing it to be here in our body and in this present moment.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, that is embodying is such a big part of the journey. And when you work with divine medicine, right? Like I've worked with ayahuasca substantially. That's the journey, is the embodiment. And I remember after my first ceremony, I had been studying with other teachers, and I had done a lot of work. I had studied with the Power Path. I had studied with the Four Winds Light Body School. I'd done all this work, deep dive, shamanic work, and it was in the light body, and it was powerful, right? Like it changed my life, and I thought, wow, this is so powerful. And then I had my first ceremony with ayahuasca, and I was like, that was baby shit, compared. That was nothing. It was everything, but it was nothing. It was just preparing me to be able to face, the embodiment piece, like coming home to myself and bringing my light into my cells. That is the real journey. It's quite intense, beautiful. And yeah, we have to live it. It's not enough to study it in a book. I hope that we're learning about that now, that intellectual understanding of God, by debating Bible verses probably is passe now. Let's move on. We're going to have a direct experience, each of us, and we're going to understand, what was trying to be conveyed through words, but it can only really ever been understood through experience. And, so I'm excited about that piece, because that's what I do. So how do you like encourage people who are maybe a little stuck in intellectualizing God? How do you help them to move out of that and into, a truer path of embodied understanding?
I suppose the way I do that is through the intellect, because the intellect is, I mean, everything we experience here in the material world to me is ultimately part of God, goddess, source, creator. So you can take anything and kind of find your way back there. So for someone who orients that way, that's probably how I would do it. I don't think I've seen that a lot. It's actually more folks who are like really wanting to find their true faith is what I find more often. But there still is in our world, I believe, such like an over intellectualization and an almost even objectification of spirituality, when it's really, yeah, this lived experience. And you can get there through the intellect, but also it's just like coming back into the body. That invites us back into our experience and helps us connect the dots. And everything I teach is really in alignment with that. Dreams, for example, like they actually change the plasticity of our brains, So it's like all of these, like coming back to our intuition, all of the somatic work that people are doing a lot of now, like working with our nervous systems, working with the body, working with things that are already part of our lives, like this, like it brings us back to that inherent uh, wholeness, which the intellect can be a part of that, you know. But
So tell us, like, what's one of the more prophetic dreams that you had that really kind of like gave you that experience of awe, like, oh wow, this is the divine talking to me, like I'm, whoa, this is powerful. And was it asleep or was it awake? You know, because I've had some that are waking dreams, you know, that are pretty amazing.
yeah, no, I'm curious what you mean by waking dreams there. Like you're awake and you kind of go into like a daydream sort of, or
Yeah, well, like one of the times I was very intentionally in a spiritual container. I was on a vision quest, modified, you know, vision quest for Western people. And I was in the woods. And so I had a tent to sleep in and a sleeping bag and all that. So that's why I said modified. You know, I wasn't like out there in the elements completely. And I had water, but I didn't have the idea was no mental activity, you know, like just shut that off. You're not going to like write in a book. You're not going to, you know, use your mind in that way. You're just going to be in your body and the experience. And I did that for like the first day. It wasn't even that long. I was only there like 5 hours and I had this waking dream where I was basically, it was real. It was actually real. But what I'm saying is like the moment where you realize that this whole thing is a dream because it's responding to you and it's alive.
yeah.
And that was the experience I had. I was singing a healing song up on a rock that I found. I just decided to start singing this healing song and calling in allies. And then I had this like little giggle inside of myself and I called in Hummingbird, and lo and behold, a hummingbird like literally flew through the woods and stopped right in front of me.
Yeah.
It hovered, like hovered. It
Yeah.
was a while. It seemed like an eternity. And I was like, because I mean, I couldn't believe this was happening, right? I just called Hummingbird and Hummingbird came. But there was a purpose to it, to communicate a message to me about when you call, we answer, you know, so you're calling, but we're answering, we're letting you know. And that, yeah, so that's what I mean, because it was just so surreal, you know, like standing in the middle of the woods and I called a hummingbird and hummingbird showed up. What?
Yes.
Yeah, it's responsive.
Yeah. Yeah. My life is filled with those moments, both awake and asleep. And honestly, there are so many at this point that it's like, I know I need to write them down more. I have like journals and notes, just like I will quickly write things down now because it's a tip, by the way. It's really helpful to write things down, even in the middle of the night. You're like, I am going to remember this tomorrow. It's like, probably not. um, but my life, yeah, has been just filled with those magical moments where I see, like, hey, the divine is at work everywhere all the time. And trying to think of a couple. I mean, I don't know, there's something that's coming back to me right now where I'm just remembering the moment that I truly realized that my dreams were prophetic. And it was very simple. Um, Even though I've had some very intricate, beautiful, like just awe, astounding dreams, this dream that really solidified it for me, which brought me to that like gnosis or the knowing inside myself, like, oh, this is this is what's real. We're here, oh, in the waking life and we think this is real, but no, it's this living spirit that moves through everything. So the dream was I was probably like 18, 19 when this one happened, and I dreamt that I was in a cafe, but in my dream everything was almost like lit up. Like there was just this finer quality in the vibration of everything around me that is like, it made me feel more awake than ever, as there's this clarity. And now at this time, like I can actually tell the difference in my dreams when there is this finer vibration, when everything seems to be lit up from within. Usually it's not just a like a projection of my own mind or me working on my own psychology, which, you know, those dreams happen too. But more so like a visitation, maybe from a past loved one or a guide or an animal ally or connecting with someone across the world. I can tell the difference between that quality. So that quality was present in the dream. And I was just in a cafe, and there was this little boy who was maybe, say, like 6 years old. And he had like brown hair. And he just walked over to me and he looked up at me, and his eyes were they were very blue, but I could see the light in his eyes and I could see the light of his being through his eyes. And I felt like we were communicating telepathically. There was no words exchanged, but I could just feel him. I could feel his soul. I could hear him through his eyes. And that was really it. But then I wake up and I was like, okay, all right, that was interesting, whatever. And that day I went to a cafe, and lo and behold, there's this 6-year-old boy here who, again, like walks over, looks up at me. It was far less intense than in my dream, honestly, but but I had this remembrance of him. That's what the vibration was that I felt in my dream, this little boy right here. And I I resisted the temptation to kind of make too much meaning out of it, and really understood that this was just confirming, like, hey, you really do access these other places in dream. You really can connect with someone on a soul level in dream. Like, soul is alive here. You reconnect to yourself, you can reconnect to others. This is real. I just felt it so deeply inside myself from this dream, and then from the following day. Like, it's just this like guttural like knowing that vibrates throughout my entire being through time and space. It was really cool, even though it was just so simple, you know?
Yeah, sometimes those simple moments it's an affirmation, that what of what you think is true, or you asked a question in your dream, like, why did I have this dream? And then the next day, well, here's this little boy, and it's like, oh, because I am connecting with souls. And I think that is, that's what we think is true and what we think is real is a matter of our opening to the divine, our recognition, our remembering. What we think is real has a lot to do with how much we've remembered. So, when there's like, for example, like there's a lot going on collectively, I feel like is helping us to clear things from our collective nightmare. I wouldn't even say dream, but from our collective nightmare, things that have been going on in the subconscious that all of us have been connected to, and in some way, shape, or form, I knew was happening. And, this is soul school. So some souls were learning through that curriculum. And now I feel like we're lifting the entire dreamscape to a higher place, and to have a whole nother set of lessons around relationality, like how we relate to ourselves, how we relate to the planet, how we relate to each other, how we relate to different timelines and future generations. And some of us have been dancing in that conversation in this incarnation already, but a lot of people haven't, right? And so we're going to be opening all of that up, and we're going to do that at a higher octave, right? Because we're not going to do that down there in the dungeon, because that's a little too much for most people. Most souls don't really want to experience that, maybe more than once, right? Yeah. So yeah, I feel like there's a lot of cleaning house that's happening. And so people are wanting, some resolution to these energies, right? A resolution to these scenarios that have been going on that are painful. And there's like collective trauma about it, right? Like there's collective soul trauma. So how do you feel like dream work helps with that? Like, how does that help us collectively resolve this? Because some people are like, let's just get out into the courtrooms and let's advocate, let's elect leaders who are going to hold these people accountable, and so there's like the third dimensional reality of like, let's hold them accountable, let's protest, let's get out there, and then I'm always advocating for yes, and like there's also this like the energy level, the soul level body, like when we resolve it there, it's all going to change, right? So what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I also feel that we have a different place in the web of creation. And we're the ones who know that place the best. Others can reflect it, can support us in finding that, but it's really when we remember, we bring back pieces of our own soul. We heal that trauma, the anger, the forces that ultimately will bind us, attach us to that density rather than bring through true healing. When we clear that, we work with it, we bring our self back to the truth of our being, which is really, it's like that vibration of truth and love within us. Then it's like, yeah, it's like we know from there. That's where the gnosis, the knowing comes from. We know if we're supposed to be in the courtroom. We know if we're supposed to be tending to the spiritual levels of ourselves right now. We know if we're supposed to be in service out here, just maybe bringing food to folks or emotionally supporting them, or when we're in that alignment, that right relationship with ourselves, with our soul, with the web of life. It's like we kind of we don't need to think about like, how do we fix this? It just happens. It happens through us. And again, to me, that's that process of like the goddess rebirthing, remembering through each one of us. We each have our own way with it that we get to claim through this journey of rebirthing in life, where we find that light.
Yeah, and I think that's true. And I've just noticed a lot of influencers saying things like, if you have a platform and you're not like speaking out about this right now, then you're in the wrong and you need to be, and it's kind of like I tend to agree with you. I mean, I feel like we each have a thumbprint journey. We each have a unique thumbprint. We each have a unique role. I know from human design and gene keys that we each have a unique place in the synarchy, so we're not all going to be doing the same thing. But it's a mistake to think like that nothing's happening just because you can't see it happening, that there's nothing happening. I feel like that's the conversation of the physical reality. When we're looking at physical reality and we're like, well, it's supposed to move. That rock has to move in order for me to know that it moved. But when we start working with energetics, we already kind of know, like, when we do certain levels of work, things are moving. They're moving. They're shifting tectonically. Like they're massively shifting, is what I'm trying to say. But we don't see the evidence of it. And so that's where that faith comes in. We've got to actually practice that knowing, because in the long term, if you actually practice, the energetics, and you do the deep dream work that you're talking about, right? Like shifting things at the level of dream. What happens is that when you look back 10 years from now, you'll totally see how those dreams and everything aligned and it all shifted. But in the moment, if you're looking for evidence of it, you're probably not going to find it. Unless you get one of these special moments like Hummingbird shows up in the woods, right? Like you get the encouragement.
Yeah, and you can ask for those from what I've seen, my experience. Like if you're not feeling that aliveness or you don't have something showing up to help you remember that, you just ask for it and trust that it will come. So I also have found that the way to really seal in our prayers, our intentions, or whatever we're wanting to call in for the highest good, is like it's really helped through offering faith and gratitude to it before you see the results. Because you, in that moment, it's like you're claiming your soul power. It's like, I have said it, so it will be so, even if I don't see it. And then that helps you sort of relax back into the safety of it. Yeah, and to me, just going back to the dreams, it's like dreams to me are medicine. They help us remember. They're always giving us clues to guide us back to that alignment in our life, to living our soul truth and our soul love. And those two forces as well are just like those are the most powerful forces there are. I mean, in my opinion, that's how I see it. And those can overcome anything, you know. So if we're choosing to embody that, which I believe our dreams are calling us back to, because that's when our soul has time to, you know, it's like we get to go home and dream. You know, we get to be filled back up with home, with truth, with love, and then we bring back different remnants of that are sacred guidance and wisdom for us in our waking embodied life. Yeah, I think a lot of us aren't receiving that full medicine every night. We don't realize that that's what it's leading us towards, is back to that wholeness.
Yeah, I have to say, like, I feel like sometimes there are periods of my life where I do a lot of soul work during dream time. So I don't really feel like I get any time off. You know? It's like I'm doing it when I'm awake, I'm doing it when I'm asleep. And it's like, when is this going to shift? And yeah, I can get impatient with it. And then I can feel that like I've been wrestling with something all night, you know, like having soul conversations with other souls and like disagreements and about how we should be doing things. And yeah, just frustration at how long things take. And that can happen in dream time, you know, and then I'll hear from somebody like you. I had this dream with you the other night. I was like, oh yeah, okay. And I'm but like not aware of it as my personality at all. But yeah, like some of the images can be quite prophetic, can actually guide us back home. And I think that, you know, we're in the process of building something new now that we've never built before. So this is a whole new time, which is why a lot of souls decided they want to be here at this time, because this is new. Like, this is exciting. We're changing. We're completely like changing the entire matrix. Like, we're dissolving one entire matrix and then we're creating something entirely new. That's very exciting, right? But then there's like the questions of how do we dissolve it in a way that satisfies everyone, right? Because it has to satisfy everyone in order to fully let it go. And then when you have opposing points of view on that, it just, yeah, it's like the council can't make up its mind. So then we have like these deepenings, you know, because we need to all agree. And if somebody's not getting it, you know, they haven't gotten it yet in their humanity, then we've got to like do some more deep dives until they get it, right? So we're all kind of holding space for everybody to wake up together, and that's a lot. That's a lot. And so these dreams can be helpful. So if anyone's kind of like, well, I already woke up, I know who I am, you know, and I'm waiting for everybody else to, you know, well, we're not really waiting. We're active waiting, because we're doing our own work too. Because like me, impatience is one of the things in my chart. Why? Because I think things should be faster or more easier. Like, don't you get it yet? These are things that are in my chart for a reason, right? And so that is my work. That's my work to do, right? So none of us is scot-free to sitting up at the top of the mountain right now. You know, so, but you also don't, if you don't feel called, like you said, if you're like, I don't feel called to be marching, or I don't feel called to be, you know, getting involved in demonstrations or whatever, then what is your role? Well, and you will only know that from the knowing. So you've got to be able to drop in and do your practices. And yeah, if your physical body is stressed out over the traumas being revealed right now, and you've also had those traumas, of course you can't sleep well at night. And then you're not getting replenished, as you said, because of all the stress. So how do you help people to, you know, to kind of rewire that so they get back into, you know, back into the space where, because I've been feeling this desire in the last few days. It's like, I remember when, you know, this was really fun and exciting. I remember when, you know, we opened up all this spirituality and it was like really enriching. And over the last, decade or so has been a lot of challenges. So how do we open that back up? Where I think all of us are kind of wishing we had some fun dream time, the good
Yeah.
dreams and lots of rest.
Mhm.
How do you do that for yourself? And what do you recommend to people?
Yeah. Yeah. Like we need some nourishment already.
Yes.
All this challenge.
Because we were saying the Divine Mother's coming back, right? Like she's waking back up. Everything's, but I feel like it's a feeling sometimes that she's freaking exhausted too. Like she's just like, oh my gosh. I mean, that could be my projection, but I did some medicine journey where it was like, oh, I mean, it was, you're putting your roots down in me and asking for nourishment, and I'm tired. And I know that feeling as a mother. Like when the kids are like, they want nourishment and I'm exhausted. So, like, if we're all exhausted, including Great Mother, like, how are we going to get through this? Is my question. What are we going to do?
Yeah, I have a couple of thoughts on that. I mean, first, I sort of see like there is this untouched place that is the Great Mother, like the Great Mother, the higher goddess, and even beyond that, there's this unity that really it's like no matter what goes on in this illusion and this dance that we've all decided to do together, it's like that is untouched, that is pure, that is wholesome, no matter what. And then also there are these layers of like, well, how we've treated the earth and our relationship with matter and with the mother, that it's like, of course, there's there are like energetic scaffolding of exhaustion for which it affects us. It affects those of us who are mothering, and it affects, which means everyone, because everyone's got a mother, everyone's been born, right? So all of that energetic of the exhaustion or the ways that we've been out of balance of with relationship of the divine feminine and the great mother, and how we have come out of embodiment where we've come into like objectification and control and all these things that really get into this distorted matrix that we are unwinding now through that embodied experience of the goddess coming back to us. It's like that's what's happening right now. It's all being undone. And but it's like rest assured, nothing happening here can really mess with that. And I mean, I feel in my life now started to find balance with that. Whereas, but I think it's a really important part of the story about the divine feminine and about what we need to call back right now through our remembrance, which again could happen mentally, could happen through work in our heart field, could happen through spiritual understanding and awakening. It's a constant process. No matter how awake we are, we can always keep going through that process of awakening. That's the point of the spiral of life and enlightenment. So yeah, I mean, a little bit more practically though, one of the things that I like to teach about is like, I mostly call it dream hygiene. And there are certain practices that we can do to help us cultivate the most sacred dream time. And this, again, always links back up to our waking dream that we're experiencing here as we're being embodied. But it can help us feel more rested when we wake up, even if we are the whole night doing work. It actually, there's like this rewiring that needs to happen where we're learning that no matter, even if we're doing the right work, the aligned work, we don't have to take on that blueprint of exhaustion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're like literally creating these new energetic pathways so that other people can follow along with that now. And the feeling of the intensity of it is just like, to me, it's almost like we could even celebrate that, because I think about the arc of birth, the arc of death, the arc of transformation, where it's like at its height, like right before, like crowning. It's really intense and you're like, oh my God, like I can't take this. It's just like, it blows you open. And when you're at that moment, it's like it's all the dismemberment. It's like the chaos. And I feel like that's the kind of the stage we're in our world right now. And our job is to just like almost like let go and allow, just let the light move through us, let the birth happen, let it come back, because it will. It's like it's eternal. And when it's supposed to come back, it will. We just allow it. We trust that when it gets to the intensity of exhaustion or anger, like the injustice that we see, what's really happening is that we're finding our way. And what do we need to do? What's our role in that light coming through and weaving, breaking down these scaffoldings that are false, really, or it's like what they have called sin. It's just being out of alignment with with divine will. And that's what some of these scaffoldings are, the exhaustion that's there, or the injustice, the abuse, like all of the power seeking and control. That's all based on, or not based on, the divine will, not based on love and truth. It's being cleared, and it's a rough process.
Yeah, it's not for the faint at heart to be here at this time on the planet. And some people are choosing to leave, and I think that's every soul's choice. I also feel like nothing is permanent here. Everything is transitory, and it's all moving through. And so if we can just hold on another day, it'll probably change. I just wanted to put that little word out there for anyone who's feeling like, I don't know if I can keep up with this marathon, like this is more than I thought it was going to be. It's intense. I just want to remind you, it's always more than we thought it was going to be. Like, what lifetime did you ever go into that you planned and then it wasn't more than what you thought it was going to be? It is. It's going to be more than what you thought. Because if you could handle it, and it would be boring to you as a soul, so of course Great Mother's going to put some curveballs in there that you didn't expect. Like last November, the one before, when everything, two Novembers ago, when everything flipped and the whole timeline went clunk, like to the basement floor. It's like, what just happened? Oh my gosh, I can't believe this just happened. To the basement floor. So, so we've been working our way up from the basement ever since. And it's a lot. It's a lot. So give yourself grace, give yourself rest. I love this. I love weaving in this dream medicine. I feel like this is really soothing, potentially very soothing for people to come to this space that you're holding, and to be in with this divine feminine soft energy, this welcoming energy. Not that the divine feminine is always soft, but what you're offering feels gentle. It feels welcoming, and it feels like a space where people can have powerful visions, but be held in those visions. And some of those visions might, really come to their guts and wake them up, and you're ready to hold them in that. It sounds beautiful. Is there anything else you want to share about your practice or your community, what you're offering people, or even your book before we head out?
Mm-hmm. I'd love to share about, I just really briefly, I offer this Oracle report. It's a free video on YouTube that I do every month. And I just I gather all these different wisdoms, some that are coming through in dream, some that are themes and readings, and some that might have to do with astrology. But ones that are supposed to support us in the upcoming month and navigating through it in a way that we can feel most aligned, most holy and wholesome and rooted. And I just wanted to mention that. I'd love for you to come check it out. And it's really offered as a service in support of folks as they're navigating.
I see that. Yeah. YouTube Oracle report. So that link will be in the show notes below. And if you want to receive a free shipping on a Magdalene Oracle book bundle and 10% off of a reading, you can do that, and you can use the code Hummingbird for that. So we'll put the link down below as well, so you guys can check that out and get the beautiful offers that Angela has. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your voice and your experience. And yeah, I really recommend this book that Angela contributed to. It's really a gorgeous book. And I love this idea of working with the dream time, focusing on dream time alongside doom scrolling. Like if you need to doom scroll, go ahead. I get it. I do too. But then also bring in some dream time. Also bring in some Sacred Oracle. Also bring in, another lens to look at it through. Don't just stay in the doom scrolling, but encourage it to move in a new way by remembrance in your soul. That's what I recommend. And it sounds like a fun thing you can do with Angela. So that sounds good. Awesome. Thanks for being on the show. And I'm going to just invite everybody, please like, share, subscribe. Share this out with anybody that you think would be interested in these messages that we had, the conversation we had. And we'll see you in all the ways we see you. I know my episodes are not coming on a regular weekly at this point. There's a lot of, a little bit of chaos in my scheduling. So I appreciate you guys being patient with that as we move through this portal. And I'm just following too, following in with the synchronicity, and the episodes will come out when they're ready. So thanks for being patient with us. And here come your kisses, everybody. You can join me if you want, Angela. I like to give people kisses at the end. So here come your kisses, everybody. Love you so much. And have a great week. See you soon. Bye for now.
If you found even one gold nugget in this episode of Soul Nectar Show, will you do us a favor? Will you subscribe, like, and share this episode? Maybe even write a comment and let us know what you thought about it. We really, really want to engage with you at a much deeper level. Let's be part of community together. Have a great week, everyone. Bye for now.
Soul Nectar Show. Awaken, awake, Nectar Show. Take a sip from the drip of nectar, from the source of who you are.